I want to know a little bit more about what inspired you to get into public service. I know you came from an education background.
Sure.
So what, changed your pace?
So I was actually recruited as part of a pretty exciting time in Pittsfield where an organization formed to support women running for city council. And I was served on the city council for 4 years, and I really loved the work and wanted to do this kind of work full time. And there's only so many jobs you can do this work full time, representing my hometown of Pittsfield, be the mayor or be the rep, and the legislature seemed to be a really good fit for me.
And what year did you join the legislature? I know you started as city councilor and then came over here.
Yeah, so it was in 2011 that I joined the legislature. I came in a special election in 2011.
That's wonderful. And
Yeah.
it looks like you have a great group of legislators from Western Mass to join.
Yeah.
So far, so good.
Right. Well, an interesting point about that, when I joined the legislature in 2011, there were 6 women who represented the 4 Western Mass counties in the legislature. And within 6 years, there was 1. And that's pretty stunning, right? And thankfully in 2018, there was several open seats in the Pioneer Valley, and we are 5 strong. So I'm really pleased to be joined by those strong women.
Absolutely. I want to know a little bit more about the bills you filed this session. A couple of them have to do with the state's foster care system. What improvements do you believe the state could make to help people in the system and really help people that are aging out of the system transition into a successful life?
Right, so there is a lot going on with the Department of Children and Families, and since coming to the legislature, that has become a focus of mine. So I have 2 bills that I'm focusing on right now. One is to have a foster parents' bill of rights. We do a lot to fund social workers and to give them the tools that they need, but we really don't do the job we need to support our foster parents. We're trying to recruit more foster parents because the need just keeps growing for foster parents, but honestly, the system does not treat them well. And so a basic set of rights for foster parents is something that I think will go a long way to ensure that they have a real seat at the table and are respected as a member of the professional team.
Absolutely. And on the transition end, in terms of those who age out of the system, what can the state do to step in to make sure that they're really prospering and they have all of the resources necessary to succeed?
Well, the first and foremost, we want kids to not age out of the system, right? So we want to create stability for kids much earlier than let's say their 18th birthday, so that they have that stability and permanency before getting there. So we have a long way to go before we can do that. I think, quite frankly, we are failing at that. When it comes to transitioning, there needs to be a focused work on that. How can we get kids ready for either higher education or getting ready for the workplace? And I can tell you that our higher ed rates are terrible. I think it's about 3% of foster kids go to college. That's a pretty terrible number, and we have done work in the past here that, for example, waives the fees and tuition for foster kids, but it takes more than money for a kid to succeed in college, right? It takes some support, and we need to do more to support those kids. I know that I have college-age kids. They need that kind of support. What's going on? Where, in your life at that time, where do you need the support? When there's a bump in the road, who do you turn to? And our foster kids don't have that level of support, and we need to put those supports in place because we know that kids in foster care often grow up to be parents of kids who go into foster care.
Yeah, it's really about breaking that cycle.
Right.
And it sounds like some of the legislation that you filed aims to address some of that. Is that
Yeah, so a really important piece of legislation I have filed with my colleague, Aaron Vega from Holyoke, is the independent foster care review. We really think that this is a key piece of legislation that takes the review of foster care cases that happens already at DCF and takes it out of the function of DCF, because DCF is reviewing itself. And as a general rule, that's not a good idea for an agency to review itself. We really need to take that function outside of the agency in order to make sure that they're living up to the promise that we have all made to our kids.
Absolutely. I want to transition a little bit
Sure.
to committee work.
Sure.
The Attorney General found that several nursing homes across Massachusetts were mistreating their patients. As a member of the Elders Affair Committee, what can be done to make sure that elderly Massachusetts residents get adequate care, and making sure that these types of situations aren't happening again?
Yeah, so we have a crisis in our nursing homes in Massachusetts, and I think that this is the case throughout the country, but our job is to focus on Massachusetts, right? I think it all comes down to workforce. We need to really increase workforce, and we need to, in order to do that, we need to pay the people who take care of our seniors, our frail seniors in particular. I think you'll see, if you look across sectors, that it's the industries like early educators, PCAs, nursing home care workers. Those are functions that were taken care of by women traditionally. And when you look at those functions, those are the functions that continue to be underpaid. And and unless and until we decide that we value taking care of our senior citizens, we're going to continue to have this problem, especially in times of low unemployment. So we need to increase the wages, which means we need to increase the reimbursement rates for nursing homes, and we need to raise the professional level of our nursing home care workers. I really think a lot of the issues around abuse and neglect in nursing homes, there's responsibility for the people who are there, but a lot of it stems from the fact that they're understaffed and they just can't give attention to the residents who are there.
And the state, you were just mentioning that the state reimburses these nursing home facilities. Can you talk a little bit more about that and the role that plays in terms of improving care?
Right, so any government reimbursement rate is just, whether it's Medicare or Medicaid, that amount of money is not sufficient for what it actually costs any facility to pay their workers. And so, we generally look at it, it's about 65 to 67% of what the actual costs are. And so, the nursing home owner is trying to provide all the care that's necessary for the resident in the facility, but can't do it because there's just not enough money there to do it.
And that makes a lot of sense to me, but I want to ask you, as a member, on the Elder Affairs Committee, if we look back and say another Attorney General finds more instances of abuse, will you regret something on the committee, or will you regret the committee not taking more action, or maybe the Attorney General not taking more action?
So the Attorney General has to look at the specific incidents of abuse and take those seriously and proceed as is necessary. So if there's a particular nursing home that has these instances, the investigation has to continue, and there needs to be people held accountable, and quite frankly, even more important, make sure those seniors are protected, now and going forward. It's the committee's job, quite frankly, to raise the alarm, say that we are seeing this all over the state, what we think the particular issues are, and how we are going to advocate to correct them. So, for example, when it comes to service workers, with people who work with people who are disabled, or child care workers, we have a salary reserve to help boost those salaries. We need to do something or increase that salary reserve for nursing home care workers. And there's a parallel crisis when it comes to home care workers, mm-hmm. right? That crisis is happening also. It's just that the people who are home tend to be less vulnerable, right? By definition, they can be home. They're less vulnerable. but we have a great shortage of home care workers also.
Absolutely. So it sounds like you have your work cut out for you this session. Are you optimistic that those objectives will be met?
I am. I think that people have seen that we have this crisis, particularly in the nursing home area. Commission has been set up to specifically look at that crisis, and I think that with the attention given to it, and with everybody understanding that this is us coming up, each and every one of us, right? We are all going to be in a situation where somebody's going to be taking care of us. Then we need to make sure, I think people are pretty motivated to make sure we fix this.
Absolutely. I'm going to segue a little bit.
Sure.
As a Western Massachusetts legislator, I really want to get your thoughts on East-West Rail. How do you think that would help your commute? And really, do you believe that it would boost the economy across the state?
Yeah, so it's critically important that we complete the work on East-West Rail. And as this crisis on the MBTA continues, and people are really feeling the weight of that, we cannot let up on our advocacy for East-West Rail, because it is the very policies that has the T overburdened with people, right? We do all this work to attract more, that results in attracting more and more people to the Boston metro area, which has overburdened the T. It's overburdened the housing here in Metro Boston. At some point, Boston's going to tip into the sea, okay, because we have so many people moving to this area. We need to have public policy, including such things as East-West Rail, that allow people to live and to thrive in all parts of the Commonwealth. East-West Rail is just one of those examples.
Absolutely, and I wanted to touch on this. I know that the legislature is actively working on a distracted driving bill.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you see a lot of it on your way to and from Boston. Can I get your thoughts on a distracted driving legislation, and what version would you like to see passed?
Yeah, so that bill is very personal for me. About less than 2 years ago, I was hit on the turnpike by a distracted driver, and I was pretty seriously injured, and the fact that somebody's text was more important than me, is a pretty big blow. So I certainly want to see the distracted driving bill passed. At the same time, there are other people in this Commonwealth that are not safe because of how they are treated on the road, because of the color of their skin. And the data collection that has been put into versions of these bills, I think, is very important. And I think that we need to make sure we collect that data so that we can take a good look at the behavior of law enforcement and how we can work to correct it. So I am very much in favor of making sure data collection gets included into this bill.
That was my next question.
Yeah.
You believe it needs to be included
I do.
in order for this legislation to pass?
Yes, I do.
Absolutely. Okay, I want to get one last question.
Sure, of course.
What is the message for your constituents? I know it's hard for them to get news oftentimes from what you're doing in Boston. What is your message to them who may want to pop in and see what's going on here in Boston?
Well, certainly, in particular, that you brought it up. Thank you for that entry. There aren't any Massachusetts news stations in Pittsfield. We get our news from Albany. It's very, very troubling. And we're working now with the very strong advocacy of Senator Ed Markey to correct that. And we're so grateful to him for taking this on, because it really is a federal issue. It's just that it impacts us on the state level. And so certainly anybody who wants to come to the State House, I'm thrilled with my constituents get here to the State House. But I have a district office specifically because our district is so far away from Boston. So I hope that people reach out to me in any way that's comfortable for them through social media, emailing me, calling me, stopping by my office, or just stop me when we see each other downtown or in the grocery store or on the sidelines of a soccer field. I'm always ready to talk about issues that are important to my constituents.